Well, this is Jeremy Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have, I hate posting a truth link, but felt a direct link was needed. AI video of Trump's vision for Gaza from TrueSocial.com, posted by Dr. 07, and yeah, that's the link to the AI video for Trump's vision for Gaza that he posted a while ago. You know, I personally think it's nothing more than a shitpost, and you should probably just treat it like that. But you know, everyone always treats Trump, all of Trump's posts, regardless, as extremely serious, regardless of how serious I think they're meant to be. And eventually, you know, you just gotta stop giving him attention. I think, you know, he just loves to do a bunch of rage or shitposts to rile people up, like this video for Gaza he did, where they have a giant gold statue for him, and he and Netanyahu are sunbathing on the beach. But you know, it's just posted to rile people up and get engagement. But you know, the thing is with people is they keep falling for it, and eventually you just gotta start to learn to ignore the guy when he does stuff like this. But you know, it's not gonna happen. People just keep giving him the attention he wants. So we'll just keep on doing it. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have $19 trillion more in debt. These maggots are adding even more to it. Every Democratic congressperson should be advocating loudly for a balanced budget from CH4Locks, and that's also from the Lib subreddit. And it looks like a tweet from Midas Touch. 19 trillion, and that was them quote tweeting. It looks like Jamie Dupree. The House is getting ready to vote on a GOP budget outline. The plan would allow for up to $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. Deficits under the plan would go up over $19 trillion over 10 years. And yeah, you know, the GOP may claim to be fiscally conservative, but you know, they're just going to spend regardless of which branch of the Uniparty is in power. You know, it really doesn't matter who's in power. You know, the government's gonna spend like there's no tomorrow, keep pushing for foreign intervention in other countries, and keep getting involved in areas of life that shouldn't, regardless of who's in charge. And I think that's very much the libertarian position. Then we have, why did Elon Musk take center stage at White House cabinet meeting? The first cabinet meeting of Donald Trump's first term was ridiculous. The first cabinet meeting of the second term, however, was worse. From MSNBC.com by Donald Key. That was by Donald Key. And, yeah, you know, I personally don't really care for Trump or Elon, but, you know, you always know what MSNBC is going to say. MSNBC is pretty much DNC Fox News, so they're always going to go Orange Man bad, Tesla Man bad, and all the associated tropes. So, yeah, this isn't really too surprising of a thing, you know. Yeah, then that's my thoughts there. And we have, Elon Musk will go on the Daily Show after Jon Stewart's Doge takedown. If episode airs unedited, the show accepts. We'd be delighted. From Variety.com posted by Donald Key. And, yeah, I personally hope he would go on the Daily Show and teach Jon Stewart a lesson that you know, it's not 2006 anymore. People aren't going to just eat up all the propaganda you put out and call it as comedy. You know, Jon Stewart's probably one of the better ones in that regard, because he does actually criticize the Democrats sometimes, but you know, he's pretty much just like the rest of them, saying, you know, Orange Man bad, Tesla Man bad, and in the format for a show, increasingly says, the people who watch it can say, oh, it's not a news show, it's a comedy show, don't like it, you know, then, you know, it's not news. But that's where they get all their news from, you know. It's in its successor show, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, that one's, I would argue, even worse. Increasingly created this show that, you know, it's pretty much all modern late night. Orange is just making the same political jokes over and over again, and you know, and asking for an applause. And people are tired of that. It's not 2006 anymore. You know, people have the internet now, and that's increasingly why cable and television and the legacy media is the legacy media because people can question their narratives like ever before. I think it really started with Gamergate, and Gamergate, I would argue Gamergate could be the most impactful, one of the most influential events of the century so far for the U.S. Gamergate was really one of the first times that the media had a narrative that, gamers are racist, sexist, and misogynistic, but the people on the internet fought back, and that increasingly led to people fighting back in other contexts. And I think that's what really led to Donald Trump and why people don't take the Daily Show as much as gospel anymore like they did in 2006. Some people still do, but it's pretty much the same people who were watching 2006 who don't question anything Jon Stewart says. People say, Trump supporters don't question anything he says, but they wouldn't question anything Jon Stewart or John Oliver said if their life depends on it. And that just goes to show you how, it's really just two sides of the same coin. Then we have Justice Department tells judges it can't comply with court-ordered deadline to release frozen aid funding from NBCNews.com, posted by Donald Key. And, ultimately, the people in power will justify whatever they justify. They say there's checks and balances, but, ultimately it does come down to who has the initiative and forced to do what, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Then we have Judge orders newspaper to delete editorial critical of city government from Reason.com by FlimsyL5563. And, I personally think that goes against the free press. But ultimately the people in power can force whatever they want to, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Then we have measles takes its first 2 victims in Texas from BBC.com posted by Nietzsche. And they added, I can't believe this is a controversial point. Unless your kid is immunocompromised, vaccinate your damn kids. And, I personally would agree to vaccinate your kids if you want to. But, the libertarian position is, do whatever you want to. Ultimately, if you don't want to vaccinate your kid and they do die of measles as a result, that's fine too. But, it's important to remember that the measles vaccine and all vaccines might have side effects as well. So ultimately, everyone should make their own choice. That's very much, I would say, the libertarian perspective. Then we have Elon Musk warns Trump's cabinet America will go bankrupt from Yahoo.com, hosted by Ragnar OKXG. And they added, how does cutting more taxes than our spending help? And I would agree with that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out, I would say. If America was a private company, it would 100% be bankrupt by now. But since the government is an illegal monopoly, it can't really go bankrupt without everyone going crazy, I guess. But I think the U.S. It should stop spending like it's no tomorrow. But because as Musk says, it's probably going to go bankrupt almost certainly. But I think we're going to have to learn that lesson the hard way, and and hopefully when the bad times do come, we'll be able to survive through them. Then we have Trump team weighs pulling funding for Moderna's bird flu shot despite outbreak from Axios.com, hosted by Swamp Yankee Dan. And I personally think if people want to treat bird flu very seriously, they should be able to. But I think the media are pushing bird flu, I think, more than it deserves to be pushed. It's kind of like COVID back in 2020. They're pushing it. They want another pandemic to bring Trump down. Well, I would argue that people have caught on to them by now. If people want to buy bird flu shots, I think they should be able to. But I think if taxpayers want to fund bird flu shots, I think they should be able to. But I don't think forced taxation should just automatically result in bird flu shots. If people want to do bird flu shots, that's fine, but you shouldn't be forced to do them if you don't want to. Then we have Red District Doge protests cited as proof of broad Musk backlash were organized by left-wing groups from freebeacon.com posted by Color Monochrome. And that's not too surprising. Generally, the people who are organizing protests usually have an agenda, and increasingly, I don't think there's too much grassroots involved in politics currently, especially when it comes to these protests. Reddit's increasingly nothing but an astroturfed DNC propaganda hellhole that says, oh, we gotta protest every week. We gotta do a nationwide economic blackout on February 28th. That's the day for anyone watching. And yeah, eventually people they just realize it's all just fake performative activism, and they'll just move on. Then we have the most transparent administration in history, posted by Donald Key, and that's crosswords from the conspiracy subreddit. And yeah, that's some tweets from Daisy Drano, Jack Posovich, Swig, I don't know what his name, and Chad Preffer, and that was how the government gave them the Epstein files, but apparently, they were all heavily redacted. But I do think it's a small step in the right direction, giving private citizens in-demand data like the Epstein files rather than the corporate media. But still, if you're just going to redact all of them, why even release them in the first place? And of course, Reddit's going to be saying, oh, Donald Trump's named in them. Yeah, Donald Trump's probably in them at some point. They're probably all in them at some point. The elites increasingly can do whatever they want. And yeah, I don't know if they'll ever release the full ones, because I think Epstein might have been Mossad. That's the Israeli CIA. He was a Mossad asset, probably. So they'll never release the full one, because Israel's really the one who pulls the strings for a lot of all of the U.S. government. But yeah, hopefully we'll get more where this came from. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have U.S. gender policy from first executive order from previous L3, and that's from the White House website, Section 2, Policy Definitions. It is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. Under my direction, the executive branch will enforce all sex protective laws to promote this reality, and the following definitions shall govern all executive interpretation of and application of federal law and administration policy. And I personally would agree with all that. But I don't think it's the government's job to tell you how many sexes there are. I don't think it's just like I think Trump also said he's going to pass a bill saying, English is the official language of the U.S. I personally think most people in the U.S. do speak English, but I don't think it's the government's job telling people what isn't official. I personally believe there are only two sexes and pretty much all what they said, but I don't think it's the government's job to be involved in that. It'll be up to each individual to think what they want on it, and not that and the government shouldn't be pushing it on people. It should be up to individual decision. And we have Pam Bondi says FBI lied to her about turning over all the Epstein files from dailywire.com by Donald Key, and that's a crosswords from the conservative subreddit. And yeah, hopefully they'll be able to fix that out. I personally think it just goes to show you how bureaucratic the government is. Even when the people in power want something, the bureaucrats might find a way to get around it and delay it further, like the release of the unredacted Epstein files. But it just goes to show you how ultimately you can be in a position of power, but you can ultimately be subverted by those who maybe the Mossad agents, as I mentioned earlier, who seek to control the narrative. Then we have Lindsey Graham admits Trump broke the law and then dismisses it like it's nothing from Donald Key, and that's crosswords from the law subreddit. And that's a clip from the Majority Report podcast with, I think, Sam Cedar. And he looks at they're looking at a clip from NBC News where Lindsey Graham says, whatever is said in the host title. But, ultimately, those in positions of power ultimately do determine what the law is. If you want to say they broke the law, that's fine, but, ultimately all authority does come from holding a position of authority, and Trump has a position of authority, so if he doesn't want the law to apply to him, or he wants to go against the law, he's shown that he can do that, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But, all the other presidents could legally questionable stuff as well, they were just better at hiding it, I would argue, since they had historically been involved in politics, while Trump didn't really get involved in politics until relatively late in his life. Then we have my concerns on Trump's tariffs from You Ain't Unknown. And they said the purpose is, a tariff is used as a punishment and while it can be used effectively, such as with anti-Entente and Central Powers in World War I, the way Trump intends to use those is to encourage domestic purchases, among other reasons. Byproducts as a result of these tariffs coming from America's three biggest importers and less than most common foreign products. Prices for domestic products will rise as well. Example made a thing, a sell thing at a marked up price to avoid the foreign product, causing prices to rise nationwide. Concerns. One of the many reasons people vote Trump was to get prices down, among others. But with these tariffs, I fear that this won't happen. At least won't happen until late term. And I'd agree with all that. I personally don't really care for tariffs at all. They're just they're a tax on imported goods, and I don't care for taxes at all. But ultimately, as I said earlier, those in positions of power can justify whatever they want to. Then we have I Can't Go to Jail. Body cam footage reveals deadly encounter between pardoned Jan 6 rioter and deputy from Fox59.com, posted by Donkey, and that's crosspost from the Capital Consequences subreddit. And yeah, that's just a post being used to, I'm sure there were some unscrupulous characters involved in the January 6th riot, but it's definitely being used like 9/11 was in the 2000s to push an agenda more than anything else, and people aren't falling for it anymore. I'm sure if the in-group did it rather than the out-group, it would be the worst thing ever. It's like the people who fought the summer 2020 riots were the worst thing ever, or were fine with January 6th because the in-group did it, and vice versa. It just goes to show you how it doesn't matter what people really do as who does it, I would say. Then we have Bombshell Report reveals staggering amount of government funds paid to Elon Musk from RawStory.com by Ninja Lover. And I personally don't really care for that, but the government was using stuff like USAID to funnel aid to funnel money to progressive NGOs for years, and no one cared. But Elon does it, and it's the worst thing ever. As I said earlier, it just depends who's in the in-group and who's in the out-group. Then we have Further Proof Trump is a Scumbag from Ragnar OKXG, and that's a right crosspost from There Was an Attempt subreddit. And that post was not for World War III. And yeah, that was Trump and Zelensky on Fox News. Apparently, their conversation didn't go too well. And hopefully they'll be able to wind down the war soon. Because if you think it's anything but a U.S.-Russia proxy war, you've been propagandized, I would say. But regardless, it's just another Orange Man Bad headline that pretty much is all Reddit is at this point. And yeah, it gets tiring after a while. Then we have friend of mine lost his job, was escorted out at gunpoint, as were all the others, just for being gay, no other reason, from Baton 13. And that's a tweet from I guess it might be a Blue Sky post. I don't know if it's regardless, it's from Alejandro Caraballo. She's some transgender lawyer. There's a full purge of every single LGBTQ employee at the NSA. Rufo is falsely mischaracterizing LGBT employee resource group as a sex chat to create pretext to fire every single member in it. This is the playbook they will run to purge the entire federal government. And that's it. They were quote-tweeted Chris Rufo, who tweeted, "Scoop. Tulsi Gabbard is preparing a memo directing all intelligence agencies to identify the employees who participate in the NSA's obscene, pornographic, and sexually explicit chat rooms and to terminate their employment or revoke their security clearances. Deadline Friday." And yeah, I personally think, I personally don't really care for federal employees, whether they're woke or not. I would say fire as many federal employees as possible. They might try and get you on anti-discrimination if they say, oh, we were fired because we're LGBTQ. But eventually, we just gotta find a way to get them all out of there. Get the government as small as possible, I would say. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. It's interesting how the progressives used to hate the NSA back when Edward Snowden first had his revelation, but now, we need as many LGBTQ employees as the NSA as possible. And that just goes to show you how it just depends what the narrative is. And yeah, I'd say just gut the entire agency. But, a lot of Reddit libertarians will probably say, oh, we need it because we need to spy on people who dissent from whatever the official narrative is. And I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.